Welcome to the True North 365 podcast, where we bring valuable information the world needs to hear to live out their true potential, realizing they have everything they need inside of them to go higher, reach their dreams every single day of the year. We bring guests on the show who are living out their dream life to showcase their work, dig into the climb they endured to get from where they were to where they are today, exposing the entrepreneurial myth that it's all easy. In addition to smaller bite-sized clips of me just sharing my everyday thoughts on business, family, spirituality, and general well-being. So sit back, turn it up, and enjoy the episode. We're so grateful you're here. Welcome, welcome. I'm so excited to have you here today. Everyone who's listening in, we have a very special guest with us who happens to be my brother, Paul Winningham. And before I let him introduce himself in all of his glory, just to give you guys an idea of why I wanted him to come on the show, you guys know I'm all about positivity and bringing hope into your life. If you're climbing any ladder to the top of any mountain, whether it's in your career, at school, in your relationships, spirituality, whatever that looks like, it's not always easy. And my brother has definitely not had it easy getting to where he is today. And I'm just so proud of him. Just a couple weeks ago, he accomplished getting his private pilot's license, and he's just kicking. He's kicking ass in all areas. He's working at the Fly Club or something. He'll correct me on that, I'm sure. But he's working at the Centennial Airport. Like he's doing the deed. He's getting it done, and I'm so proud of him. So I'm excited to have him here today, and that's what we're going to talk about. So, Paul, if you could tell us about, who you are and what you do, in addition to what I just said, that'd be awesome.
Yeah, so I'm Paul Winningham, as Alex said. I'm Alex's little brother. I'm a private pilot. I also work the front desk at Aspen Flying Club. So with that, I'm in charge of like dispatch and just kind of helping people out, helping people start flying. I'm also a server at Lubo's Pizza. And then I'm also a student at MSU Denver. And there I study aerospace science. I'm finishing up my junior year, hopefully getting done soon. And as Alex said, a couple weeks ago, I got my private pilot license. So I've been flying a lot, learning a lot, meeting a lot of people. And things have been going really well.
Yep. And I mean, I know I can answer this question, but have you always been this way, Paul?
No, well, okay. So I've always wanted to be a pilot. When I was a kid, if anyone knows our family, they know our father, Fred. He was an airline pilot. He's now retired, but he's flown his whole life. He's been flying for like over 50 years. He got his private pilot license when he was like 15 or 16 before his driving license. And our uncle on our mom's side, our uncle Paul Dewhurst, he's also like a world champion ultralight pilot. Our granddad was a flight instructor. So just a lot of aviation in our family. And I've always been interested in it. Obviously, when I had an interest when I was a kid, but there was always a question like, can I do it? I kind of thought I wasn't smart enough or I wouldn't, have what it takes. But, one thing I've learned is that if you really want to do something and you put in the work, put in the time, and you're willing to kind of go through the obstacles, you can pretty much do whatever you set your mind to. So that's one thing I've learned from this journey is just, sticking to what you want to do, even when it gets tough, even when you feel like you can't do it. It's amazing to find out what you are really capable of.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, so let's dive into. I'm gonna kind of peel back the onion here and let everyone knows that on this podcast we always have like this structure of like how we think it's gonna go, and then as the conversation unfolds, it's just amazing what we get to talk about. So I'm gonna kind of peel back some layers of the onion and see how far we can go with it. And you talk about coming from a lineage of pilots and accomplished people, and then you're growing up thinking, oh, I want to be a pilot, but not thinking you'd be good enough for that. Like, was there any pressure? Did you ever put pressure on yourself to be this, to hold, like, kind of, I guess, continue on the legacy of pilothood, I guess you will, with our family being pilots, and then you being you're the only son in the Winningham family. So tell us, can you share anything if that strikes anything with you?
Well, yeah, I mean, one thing I'm really grateful of is our dad. He never like pressured me to do this. Like, he would talk to me about it, but it was never any pressure. I kind of made the decision for myself. So a lot of it was kind of pressuring myself. I went on my first flying lesson when I was about 18. Me, dad, and mom kind of talked about it. It took a while, but then I eventually started doing lessons. And like you said, like things never go according to plan. In my first 20 hours of my flight training, I was probably about 20 at this point. I actually experienced an engine failure um, on takeoff, and we had to declare an emergency. Thankfully we were high enough; we were able to turn around and land, and we got on the ground safely. But chances of that happening so early on are really low. Like I know guys with 1,000 hours, they've never had any situation like that, and back then it kind of did mess with me a little bit. I was afraid, like, man, like I'm going to be up here by myself. Will I be able to handle a situation like that? And unfortunately, at that point, it kind of put a halt to my flight training because the school I was at then, that was the only plane. It had to get what's called an overhaul, or needed a whole new engine. So it kind of put a halt to my flight training, and it kind of freaked me out for a while. And I actually stopped flying for like a few years, and it kind of halted my progress a lot. It made me think like, do I ever want to do this? Can I do this? But actually, what happened a few years later, my best friend Cody, he got interested into aviation, and he needed help with one of his simulator classes at school. He comes over, and we boot up my flight sim, and I hadn't even thought about flying in a long time, and so then I'm helping him out, helping him navigate and stuff. And I was just like, man, like I like this. I'm really good at this. Like, maybe I should give it a shot again. And so another inspiration was actually our mom. She decided she wanted to pursue flight training. So she booked what's called the Discovery flight. I went down to the club with her, not flying in years. And just being around there and like, seeing her get in the airplane and go and taxi away, I was like, man, like I need to get back at this. And so I then met our flight instructor, Kelsey, and I just kind of got back into it and got the bug again. And going through that engine failure, I was scared for a long time, but after getting back at it, I just found that I wasn't scared anymore, and I kind of used what I learned from that engine failure, like, hey, I need to prepare myself for what if this does happen. So it kind of just made me more motivated to be the safest pilot I could be. I started kind of going a lot harder in my flight training, um, taking like what I had learned and just applying it to present day. Because after a few years of just kind of growing, learning who I was in a lot better position to kind of get back at it. So I just started going hard in it. Then there was obstacles along the way. Whenever you're pursuing something, there's always obstacles. I got a lot of like such as weather. I had a lot of canceled flights due to weather. We live in Colorado. Planes going down for maintenance. I had an issue obtaining my student pilot certificate, and I had to go down to the FISDO and do all these things. But I just kept my head and pointing in the right direction and just got everything done. And then yeah, so February 20th, I took my private pilot check ride, and I did really well. The DPE, the designated pilot examiner, said that my flying was spot on, and so it was just a really good feeling after all that work, having someone in that position tell you like, hey, you're really good. It was a pleasure flying with you. So it's a good feeling, and it's just fueled me more and more and more. And now I'm working on my instrument rating, and a private pilot license is a big deal, but it's just it's the first step of many. I have a lot more stuff to do, but I'm going into it feeling ready, prepared, and just willing to put my head in the book, head in the sky, and things have been going really well.
Put your head in the book and then your head in the sky. Is that what you said?
Yeah. So one thing, when I was growing up, I didn't know if I had what it took. I struggled in school a lot when I was younger. Learning about things that just didn't really interest me, and I would get by, but I struggled. But I was always a nerd. I've always loved, computers and science and airplanes and cars. I've always been kind of like, a jock in a sense too. I played soccer growing up. I was a skateboarder for a long time. I like to go snowboarding. I like to, go up in the mountains and ride ATVs and dirt bikes with the family. And one thing that really clicked in my mind, I was doing a stage check before I went solo. So solo is when you fly the plane by yourself and you go up with another instructor and he kind of makes sure you're safe. And one thing he told me is like, yeah, man, to make it in aviation, you have to be a nerd and you have to be a jock. You have to have the smarts of a nerd, but you also got to have the confidence to be like, I'm going to go up there and do this thing. And I realized I was like, that's kind of my personality. So it was a good point then because I realized like, I think I do have the personality to do this. And then I passed the stage check, did well, went solo, which was a great experience. Just being up there by yourself. That was another thing that kind of really fueled me. Is just, being the sole manipulator of this airplane, and they trust you to take their, $100,000 airplane up. And so that was a good point. I realized that, like I can do this. And the more I've gone along it, the more I've tuned my skills, the more I've learned about myself and realizing that, even though some things seem unrealistic at times, if you just push forward, you can accomplish it.
Man, you touched on so many things that I could dive
Yeah.
into. Like and it's perfect. Like
Yeah.
it just shows like there's, you going up in the, one of the first times you go up flying and then there's an engine failure. So then it's
Yeah.
like that fear was real, and that happens a lot with people that are going for things. And, it's experiencing that setback. And then the fact that you got back up and did it again is huge. It's huge. And you mentioned something that is also very important that I find consistently on these episodes with people is, having one, you had Kelly, who's a flight instructor, believing you.
Kelsey.
You had Mom, Kelsey.
Yeah.
Kelly's our maintenance guy at Mom and Donald's house. Right. I mean, I'm sure he believed in you too, but so you had Kelsey believing in you, right? You had Mom believing in you. Dad didn't really pressure you. So like, that's so amazing that, and Dad's always kind of been that way. Like, you got to do what you want to do. And if it works out, great. If not, well, tough luck. You should have worked harder. Like he just kind of is a kind of, but he loves us unconditionally, which is so cool for parents to hear. Like, how don't give me a hard time about this. You're 25, right?
Yeah. You got it.
I got it. Well, there's 4 of us. It's a lot to keep track of. So 25, you're private pilot, and that says so much for what you focused on. And did you ever, when you're growing up, did you experience any temptations? Like, you're going to college, most kids 15 to 25, not most, but there's a good group of kids that can get involved in like some bad things. Like, were you just always on the up and up, or what's the deal? Are you just like the golden child? And I say it's kind of I don't want to say it's a rhetorical question.
No, I'm definitely not the golden boy. There's in any field you go in, one thing I've learned, there's always the golden boy or girl who, they're 18, they got their private pilot license. They're so much further ahead of you. But one thing Dad taught me, there's always going to be that guy. There's always going to be someone better than you that's way ahead. And that's just kind of a fact. And I experienced a lot of, as I say, turbulence along the way. I was in a relationship for 6 years, and it was really good at times, but a lot of times, it kind of took my focus away and kind of kept me from doing what I wanted to do just because I was focused on so many other things. And then I got out of that relationship. And one thing I've heard, like sometimes when you get out of a relationship, it's really hard and it really sets you down, but it kind of gives you a new outlook. You kind of put your head down, focus on what you got to do. I spent a lot of time like really questioning what I want to do. At one point I was hanging out with bad people who weren't really doing anything with their lives. And another thing I've learned, sometimes you're kind of as good as the people you choose to hang around with. These days, I spend a lot of time down at Aspen Flying Club, which is where I work, and just a lot of really smart, determined people who have similar goals as to what I want to do. And it's just amazing how much inspiration I've got from that, just being around people who have similar goals, who are hardworking, who are determined. And that's made a world of difference. And And I have a lot of friends who have really helped me along the way. My best friend Cody being one of them. He's probably the smartest person I know. Even when I was struggling, like going through the worst times of my life, he always would sit down with me and just remind me, like, dude, you got this. Like, you're really smart. You can do this. And surrounding yourself with people who inspire you, I think that's one of the most important things. And it's so easy to get caught up, like saying drinking or drugs, and it happens and it's unfortunate. And I feel like those things just kind of kill your fire. And it derails a lot of people's hopes and dreams. And so I try my best to just stay clear of all the negativity and just, focus on what I need to do, what I want to do. Because, if this was easy, then everyone would do it. So it's, facing the hard times and getting through them. And in the end, it makes you stronger. Like, what was the month? May of 2018. It was the hardest few months of my entire life. And I had just started my flight training, and it did slow me down a little bit, but I got through it. One thing they teach you when you're flying is you got to have you got to make sure you're doing okay. We have what's called the I'm safe checklist. You have to make sure you're not ill, you're not on any medication, you're not dealing with stress, you haven't drank too much alcohol, which a lot of pilots do. So you got to make sure you're staying clear of that. You can't deal with fatigue or emotion. And the hardest part about that is emotion, because emotions are a really complex thing. Some people, like, say you get a flat tire on the way to work, or in my case, like going on a flight, or I guess that more falls under stress. Some people, that would stress them out so bad they wouldn't be able to do what they have to do. Some people say you deal with the death of a loved one. So you just got to really assess like how you're doing. And that's one thing being a pilot, teaches you is like, how are you doing? Are you passing the I'm safe checklist? So every day I kind of go through that checklist, like, am I feeling sick, medication, stress, alcohol, fatigue, emotion? And most days I'm fine and I'm good to fly. Some days, I just don't feel good, and you have to make that call. Okay, I can't fly today. Let's hit the books. And that's another thing. Every day I wake up and I try to accomplish one thing towards my goal. That's my goal every day. Even if it's the slightest thing, just every day wake up, think of something you can do that gets you closer to your goal, whether it's writing that paper, whether it's, booking that flight or trying to get that interview. Just do one thing every day that gets you closer to your goal. Because, it's really easy just to fall into the loop. And, I worked at a restaurant for a long time, and I love that job. I worked there. I still do a little bit. I've worked there for, I think, 7 years, and it's a really good job. I was really, like, comfortable financially, but it just wasn't giving me that fulfillment I needed. And that's one thing I learned in philosophy at school, like fulfillment. Like, what is fulfillment? Do you feel fulfilled in your daily life? And if you find yourself most days like saying no, like, I don't feel fulfilled, then it's time for a change, and you got to kind of look into what you can do to kind of get that feeling. And I went a long time without feeling that feeling. Probably through 20 to 24 is just like, what am I doing? I'm kind of running around in circles at work. I'm not really progressing in life. I'm not doing what makes me happy. And now I wake up every day, and and I do feel that fulfillment. And I think that's really important, for someone's, success is, do you feel fulfilled in what you do? So after years of working at the restaurant, like, I love that job. It taught me so much. I met so many people, but I would wake up every day and I just didn't want to go to work. I'd have 12-hour shifts on my feet, and I just did not look forward to it. So my instructor, Kelsey, let me know, hey, they're looking for someone down at Aspen Flying Club. You should do it. And I thought long and hard about it, because, here I am. I'm really comfortable in my job. I'm comfortable financially. It's not a bad job, but I kind of sat down and I was like, what's stopping me from taking this leap of faith? And so I called him and I was like, yeah, dude, I want, let them know I'm interested. And I went in and interviewed and eventually got the job. And since I've worked there, it's, I wake up and I have to wake up like at 6 a.m, be down there at 7:30. But I wake up and it doesn't bother me at all. I don't have any issues getting up and going to work. And I think that's really important. Just, loving what you do, even if, you have to sacrifice a little bit, even if you have to, every paycheck kind of count your money a little better. It's so worth it. And just doing something that you enjoy. And my job's really cool. I get like these kids come in and they want to learn how to fly, and I get to like just talk to them and help them kind of get inspired, and it's really fun. I really enjoy it. I get to, bring them out to the airplane, have them sit in the airplanes and just be like, yeah, like, this and this and that is what you got to do to get your license. I have a great instructor who, I think you'd get along with, and it's a lot of fun, and it's challenged me in different ways. Working in a restaurant, it's very challenging. There's a lot going on. It's a stressful environment, but one thing I learned from that, it made me comfortable in stressful environments, and I think that translates really well to aviation because it's not always smooth sailing up there. Sometimes stressful things happen, and you gotta keep calm and you gotta handle it. But pointing my life in a slightly different direction, it's taught me a lot. And I just want to encourage people, don't be afraid of taking that leap of faith. Even if you're nervous and you're uncertain, you just got to do it. And that's one thing Dad taught me is, he went through a lot. He was an Air Force pilot. He really wanted to fly jets, but unfortunately he got put to flying tankers, refueling planes. And he told me when he found that out, it was the worst day of his life, and he felt really bad about it. But now looking back, it ended up being the best thing that ever happened to him. And he just put in the work, and just, I can't say enough about just, getting committed and hard work, and just, feeling confident about yourself and committing yourself to things. It goes a long way.
Yeah, it really does. And I really appreciate you highlighting the challenges that you went through and the lessons that you learned, because going from, I mean, you were, when you started out at Lubo's, you started off as a busser, right? Like you weren't a waiter.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'd bus and do dishes,
Yeah.
and it was rough. Like
Yeah.
I'd do Friday night dishwashing, and the plates would be up to my eyeballs, and it sucked, but I just kept at it. And eventually I ended up being like, I was, when I took a step back from Lubo's, I was the most senior person there.
Hmm.
And just kind of going through that process of starting at the bottom and just working your way to the top, even if it's your local restaurant. It's, and that did make me feel good. It gave me confidence. So when I went into that other job, I was like, I can handle this. It's going to be different, but I've done this before. Like there's nothing that's going to stop me from, giving it my all. And even if I mess up a few times, we all make mistakes. Every job teaches you something. And, as long as you keep getting at it, and you just keep, kind of following your heart and following your mind, I think it will take you to a good place.
Yeah, it's huge because there's a balance between our hearts and our minds. Like you talked about the relationship you were in for, you guys were together 6 years.
Yeah, 6 years.
Yeah, like there's your heart involved in that, but then you got to use your
Yeah.
mind as well. And
Yeah.
it is a balance. I being able to like just use discernment. That's like a huge word, and I know in my life is discerning, like, okay, is this person good for me? If they're a friend, I was talking to a friend the other day, and she was telling me about someone she was going to hang out with, but she was really frustrated about the way they communicate because she couldn't find where he lives and this and that. And I said, why? I just asked, like, why are you hanging out with people who aren't like bringing you joy? She's like, well, it's 50-50. I'm like, she's like, you know what I mean? And I
Yeah.
actually said, I don't know what you mean, because I don't invite people into my like inner circle, my close knit friends, if they're not like, if we're not always like, not always, but like more times than not, like really like filling each other's cups. Like when I talk to
Yeah.
them, I feel better. So there's a very small amount of people, because you can't have 25 best friends, but
Yeah.
like you and Cody, like someone that lifts you up and believes in you. And like, so can you share with us, how, so when you're around people, for those, like for a younger audience that's listening, or maybe older, I mean, who knows, but whoever's listening, That's like, yeah, that's good for you guys, but you guys don't have parents that like, you know, beat you up when you were younger or who are dragging you down or that I'm caregiving for and they're negative all the time or you know, a sister or brother that just never supports them or a friend that or friends, group of friends, like maybe they're on drugs and alcohol and they don't know how to get off. Like because they don't know how to change friends, they're scared because change is hard. You mentioned that a couple
Hmm.
times. And so for those people that are on here, they're like, well, I don't know, like, well, how could I ever do what Paul's doing? Like, what advice do you have to people where how you start shaving off the so you shave like when I like shave. So this is an analogy that's coming to me,
Trim
and
the
then probably
fat.
wrong.
Yeah.
Yeah, you trim. Yeah, how do you trim the
Yeah.
fat? How do you do that?
Well, okay, I'll start on the relationship parts. Relationships, they're like a crucial part of life. We all want a good relationship. And, when you first meet someone, it's, you really get to know them, and first impressions differ when you've been with that person for a couple of years, and you really get to know how you guys work together. And, as time goes on, you kind of get to know that person more and more. And not saying that that person's a bad person, but sometimes if you don't click together, if you're not supporting each other, if you find yourself filling that cup, it puts a lot of pressure on you, and it takes away focus that could be put on yourself. Not to sound selfish, but you want to put energy into someone and you got to expect that energy back. It can't be a one-way street. It has to be mutual. And the longer you're with someone, you kind of get to know, like, okay, this person is good for me in ways, but they're also bad for me in ways. And it's hard, when you love someone, when you want to make things work, there comes a time where and it sucks to say, but sometimes you have to look out for number one at the end of the day. Um, and I don't mean to sound selfish by that, but you gotta take care of yourself. That's a very important aspect of life, and you want to take care of everyone else you love, and you also got to take care of yourself. And so relationships are hard, and I just urge everyone, if a relationship is stopping you from doing the things that you like, reaching your full potential, then try to make the changes, try to communicate like, hey, this is what I need. But relationships are a very complex equation, and they don't always, equal out to what you want them to be. And relationships aren't everything. I urge people, who haven't been in a relationship for a while and they really like, want someone, don't open your heart up. Like, you got to keep your heart close to you. You got to open it up to the right person who's going to help you and support you and kind of help you achieve your goals. And then you can do the same for them. And, having a beneficial relationship like that, I think it helps a lot. And, with my relationship, we helped each other a lot. I did everything I could to make sure things were good. I got support back, but it reached a point where like it was taking away a lot of my energy and a lot of my time. And I couldn't focus on the things I needed to. And there was a lot of other variables involved, obviously, but when it ended, I was a wreck. But looking back on it, everyone's doing good in their life. It things just worked out how they were supposed to. So just be careful with, who you choose to open up your heart to. I think that's very important. But and then the other point you touched on, you were talking about what can people do to, like, say if they want to do what I do or do what other people do. What I recommend is just go out and try it. Like, if you want to learn how to fly, come down to Aspen Flying Club and you can do what's called a discovery flight, and you get to go up with an instructor. You get to be in there for an hour, and you can just go out there and do it and say, hey, like, does this, kind of get me going? Is this something I want to do? And and if it kind of fuels your fire, then that's a great place to start, and just kind of go for it. And that can equate to anything. You just got to kind of get out there and get into it. You can sit at home and think about it all you want, but none of that is going to change until you get into it. And once you kind of get into it and start making the steps, it's a good feeling. And that day when I passed my check ride, just private pilot license, it's not a huge thing, but it's a really big deal to me. It's something I'd wanted to do for a long time, and I'd finally accomplished it. And like, for anyone else, like, once you're gonna have to put in a lot of work, but once you finally reach that point of accomplishment, it's the best feeling ever, and it's just gonna fuel you to go further and further and further. And I think you had one other point, but I can't remember what it was.
Yeah. So for kids that are listening to this or younger audience and they're hanging around you mentioned it a little while ago about hanging around the bad people, right? Or people that are
Yeah.
making really bad choices. Um, so for when you're changing, you're trimming the fat. And
Hmm.
I hate to say it like that, like you're getting rid of
Well,
your.
yeah, but I mean, a lot of people, they think, their high school friends are going to be their friends forever, but that's just not a reality. I mean, obviously there's a few people that you'll hold on to, but I mean, if you can get going towards what you want to do when you're young, that's a great thing. At the same time, you don't know what you want to do when you're young. It's you think you do, but you got to really. It's good to spend time thinking about it, and kind of focus on what do you enjoy. Like if your parents want you to be a doctor or a lawyer, if it's not what you enjoy, like you got to kind of take that into consideration, like what's going to make me happy. And when I always kind of knew I wanted to be a pilot. I'm fortunate for that, but when I was young, like I didn't know. I was thinking of other options, like going into engineering or just staying running in circles around a restaurant my whole life. When you're that young, you have a lot of doors open. You just want to make sure you're not closing them, like hanging out with bad people, getting into trouble. That's going to close doors for you. Say if you get into like drinking or smoking or drugs, it's just going to close doors for you. And there's great examples of people who have done that, come back from that. And that's definitely a possibility. But the more you can stay focused on your passion, kind of what makes you happy, and go for it, I think that proves to be very beneficial. And but it, like we said, it's hard to know what you want to do when you're that young. You get tossed out of high school at 18, and you got to kind of figure it out. And I remember I went to my orientation at Metro, and I was just like, I don't know what I want to do. And they were like, well, just pick something. Like, and I was like, well, I like aviation. I've always wanted to do that. I'll just say I'm an aviation major for today. And I kind of just stuck with that, started taking classes, and I realized, like, I do have a passion for this. And when I stopped flying, I was thinking about what I wanted to do. And it was hard. And there was a lot of things I could have gone into, but it all just kind of led back to doing what makes me happy and what I'm passionate about. And I don't know, I think it just kind of push yourself, even when it's hard, just push yourself. And even when you don't truly believe in yourself, you'll be amazed by what's possible. We have so much time in our lives, and just utilize it as best you can, I guess, is the best advice I would give.
Yeah, you're right. There's we definitely, you and I and people around our age, we do have time on our side. So using it
Yeah.
valuably with how we spend our time when we're alone, and then how we spend our time around people and who those people
Yeah.
are. You said this really well, that we're really the sum of the people we hang around, or like you said
Hmm.
something like that. So who we hang around is going to make an impact on us as well.
Yeah.
So it's just very, it's crucial. It's crucial.
Yeah.
Um,
And
but
oh, sorry to interrupt, but I've learned a lot just from like you, Leah, and Annabelle. Like Annabelle's the creative one. She's taught me a lot of like, express your creativity. Leah is like insanely smart. She's hardworking. She's really into veterinary and like addiction rehabilitation, and I really honor that. You're like a bad, so I don't know if I should say bad words, but you're like an awesome mother, and I've seen, the things you've overcome in your life, and you've overcome a lot. So, and growing up, it was kind of you and I for a while, and I was only understanding like the things that were going on, and so like seeing everything you've been through and seeing like where we all are today, and spending time with the people who inspire you. I think that's also really important.
yeah, yep. Yeah, I know that you and Dad and Mom and Donald and Leah and Annabelle and other people that are in our family here in Colorado, because a lot of our family is in England. You guys inspire Travis, and I'm so grateful for you guys, because as a, most of the people on this podcast know that I've been an independent parent for Travis's basically his whole life, but I really don't
Mhm.
call myself a single mom, because I have you guys helping me raise him.
Yeah.
It's awesome. And I'm so grateful that you spend time with him, and that, he has a good influence in his life. Cause, with kids, even like, you know, in Travis' situation, like he doesn't have his dad around consistently, but he's got you guys around consistently.
Mm-hmm.
And so he has a better chance of showing up. And, you know, for kids, you know, younger audiences listening to this, like get a mentor, right? Like get
Yeah.
someone around you, like seek out, because successful people, if someone's truly successful, typically they want to help people that are, you know, getting started or aren't like,
Mm-hmm.
if someone's further behind than they are, whatever that looks like, typically good people are going to want to help you out.
Yeah.
And I mean, at least that's what I found. Is that what you found as well?
Yeah, oh yeah, like having good mentors is really important. My biggest being mom, dad, and my instructor Kelsey. But it's even amazing what I've learned from Travis. Like he's 10, but like I remember he'd tell me when we were playing a video game and I kept dying, he'd be like, "Try and try, never give up." And I was like, I feel that, you know. And one day I was having a bad day, and Travis came over, and I was like in my car, and I was a mess. I was like, sorry, dude, I just don't really feel like I have many people who are here for me. And he was like, well, I'm here for you. Like, I'll always be your friend. And I was like, you're right. Like, and it's amazing what I've learned from him, just seeing him going through his little struggles, like me trying to teach him how to do fractions last night, and him just, you know, this is stupid. But we worked through it and we figured it out. And even he get it wrong, I was just like, it's okay, get it wrong, you'll learn.
Yeah.
But it's just amazing how much you learn, even from, you know, Travis, who's 10. And it, you know, he reminds me a lot of little me in ways. He's a little angsty boy, and but he's really bright. He, you know, he has a lot of potential. And so I really enjoy hanging out with Travis and kind of, you know, getting to show him things, but he also shows me things. So it's
Yeah.
a good little relationship we have.
Yeah. It's really good. All right. So before we wrap up, I have some, I call them like, well, I don't actually call them anything, but they're like fire, like we'll just call them fire starter questions, like fire question,
Yeah.
like kind of just fire them off and you just answer what comes to mind. But before I do that, is there anything else that you want to make sure to get across to our audience about everything that we've talked about? Is there anything that I missed asking you?
No, I think we touched base on a lot of good things. You know, just I'm really all for believing in yourself. You know, even if you struggle in school, try to learn about things you're interested in. Try to take the failures in your life and use them to kind of fuel you. You know, even when things get scary, just use that fear and learn more about what you need to know about yourself and other things. And, you know, a lot of people grow with obstacles in their way, but just try to climb them as best you can. Don't let them, you know, stop you in your tracks.
Sweet. That's what we're all about. Winningham. I don't know why I did this. It's like hashtag Winningham. Trying to be hip over here.
No judgment.
No judgment. That's
Just
right.
just a little, maybe.
You're gonna be 31 one day, young pup.
Don't remind me. Don't remind me.
You'll be hashtagging, and Travis will be making fun of you. I don't even know if that'll even make sense. All right, here we go. So these are, again, just like quick questions, whatever
Okay.
comes to mind. So how do you want the world to be different because you lived in it?
Because I lived in it. I want people to help each other out more. I want people to inspire each other more. I want, I don't know, I just want people to kind of look out for each other and make sure the people in your lives are doing better and just kind of get them going to where they need to go.
Sweet. What is your definition of success and suggestion to mastering success?
I think success is waking up every morning and being happy with what you're doing, regardless of finances, as long as you can feed your family, do what you need to do, and everyone around you is happy. I think that's success. Money has nothing to do with it.
Totally. Up to three of your top books that you've read that have made an impact on your life.
Well, I have read, all I've been reading is aviation books, but I remember I read Scar Tissue by Anthony Kiedis, who's the singer of the Red Hot Chili Peppers. That was a really good book. It's the younger viewers do not read that book, but for an adult audience, seeing what he's gone through, that's a great book. I've read a lot of good philosophy books. I do not like Aristotle, but I read this book called Epictetus, And it's like, and that one brought me a lot of good points. And then what's a good third one? Trying to think. I mean, all my life is like aviation. For the last years, it's been like aviation books. But I guess another good one would be it was this one I read in philosophy. It was about fulfillment. It was like fulfillment and why it matters. I'll find the exact title, but that was a really good book too, and that kind of gave me a lot, made me question a lot of things about what I was doing.
Yep. Yep.
I need to read more
Awesome.
books. Don't bring it up.
Whenever you get, well, we'll interview you again once you're done with college, and that way
Okay.
you'll have a little bit. Well, one, we'll see where, like, what have you learned, how much further have
Yeah.
you come, and then maybe we'll even wait like a few months after, just in case you decide to pick up a book. Never know. Never know. All right. So next question. Top 3 influence in your life. And these can be pilots, these can be celebrities, authors, family members, friends, whatever it is, just the top 3 people that have made an impact on your life and why.
Oh, it's so hard putting it into 3. I'm just gonna put my parents into one. I've learned a lot from my parents. Just how hardworking they are, how much they push me for my goals. My best friend Cody, he's helped me in the worst times. We help each other out. It's so hard putting it down to 3. Also, a lot of my family in England. I learned a lot from our Uncle Philip, kind of like music and just doing what you love. Also, our Uncle Paul, who's an amazing pilot, always pushed me to what. And this is way more than 3 people. And all my siblings, just kind of growing up, seeing us all grow and kind of helping each other out, influencing each other.
Very cool. Yeah, I couldn't agree more. Those are all my influencers.
Yeah. It's like having a member on MySpace where you had like a top 4.
Oh,
It was
yeah.
like the hardest thing. So, I mean, obviously there's more than 3, but it's hard to kind of put them in order,
Yep. Yep. Awesome. I'm really grateful that we got this time together, that we got to do this. And just for people to be able to follow your journey, I think you're on Instagram and Facebook, right?
Yeah. Yeah. My Instagram name is Papa Whiskey _94. It's Paul Winningham. I'm on Facebook. It's pretty much about it. I post every, so if you really want to see what's going on, I suggest following my Instagram. That's kind of how you'll get to know. Facebook, I kind of don't really post on.
Cool. Okay. Well, and we'll be sure to post your I guess you call them handles, or whatever, like for face, like your name on there. Like you just said it now, Papa Whiskey, but we'll make sure to also put that in the information on YouTube, podcast areas, and the Facebook channel. We're going to post this too. And again, I'm so excited. I can't wait to have you back on. And that's a wrap. So thanks for sharing, man.
Before we go, I just want to shout you out. I think you're killing it, Alex. And as nerve-wracking and nervous as I was to do this, I like supporting what you do, and I'm just really proud of you. You're killing it with Travis. You're killing it in life. So I support what you do, and I believe in you. So thank you for having me.
Yeah, man. Thank you. You're welcome. You are welcome. Anytime you want to come on the podcast, there's space. So I'm excited.
Okay. Well, thank you so much, Alex. I'm sure I will see you soon.
Yep. I'll see you soon. Okay. Peace out.
All right. Bye.
All right, guys, that is a wrap. I'm so grateful that you took the time out of your day to sit back, relax, and listen to the show. If you enjoyed what you had to hear, go ahead and drop us a comment. We're always looking for other people to join us on the show, to give us their feedback so we can keep delivering high-quality content over and over again throughout the year. Hope you're having a great day or night wherever you're at, and we will talk to you next time.